Yo, what's up, YouTube dweebs? Today, I want to make a video about an album that is honestly really important to me. I'll be honest, it's not one of my favorite albums ever. However, I think it's a very special album and it's worth talking about. And that album is But Here We Are by the Foo Fighters. Oh look, it's like a little sun setting. I want to talk about this album because I think it's an album that honestly doesn't even have to exist, but it does, and the fact that it does exist is special. And I want to give you some background about me, how I became a fan of the Foo Fighters, a little bit of history, and do just kind of a deep dive on this album. So in case you're wondering, like, is this guy really a true Foo fan? Well, let me show you some things that I've collected over the years. First of all, I got the vinyl for the new album, so suck it. Books, anyone? Yes, I've read them. Hello, Blu-ray of the documentary, yeah. Limited edition Vans high top sneaker that I literally bought just to have. I wore these like once. Flag from a concert. Last but not least, my Dave Grohl candle shrine. Yeah, I didn't actually buy this. A friend got this for me as a Christmas gag gift, but I thought it was funny. So anyway, that is kind of my Foo history and my credentials. So let me take you back. Let me back up a little bit into the past. So how I became a Foo Fighters fan is when I was in elementary school, and I was probably in third or fourth grade when the album Echo, Silence, Patience, and Grace came out. Specifically the song The Pretender, watching the music video for that song and being like, my little fourth grader mind was like imploded, you know. It wasn't blown, not completely blown, implosion. Something about just a bunch of police in SWAT gear, like running up on a band almost like it's a battle, and then just all the red paint or whatever exploding. It's like a Christopher Nolan movie. It's like the third Dark Knight Rises, when the cops are going up against the thugs who took over the city. It's like a huge, it's honestly like that in a sense, but with a little rock band. Like, hey, we're gonna blast you out with music. So I just remember seeing that, and specifically seeing Taylor Hawkins on the drums looking so sick. The glass shatters and it's all over the band, and they're like, ugh. It's just like blood and guts and music, and Taylor's in the middle of that going, no, I'm not a pretender, whatever. And I remember seeing that and just thinking, that drummer looks so cool, and that's what I want to do, and I want to become a drummer. And so I developed a passion for drums, honestly, through watching that music video. And so, many years later, I'm a drummer, I'm a musician, I like to write music, I play guitar, I played in bands and everything. And so I have, honestly, that moment of watching that music video as one of the cornerstones of me being so enthralled in music. I'm not one to get super emotional about things. You hear about musicians passing away. I think this is the first time where I actually felt it. It is really sad to talk about because, that's someone who directly inspired my life and inspired me to make decisions in my life that shaped kind of my path. Yeah, so that was a long intro, but I really just wanted to explain how much the Foo Fighters and Taylor Hawkins especially meant to me, and how devastating it was when he passed. And so this album, But Here We Are, took some notes. on the songs, and I've taken a while to listen to it. So it came out about 2 months ago, and a lot of people kind of jump on reviews like the day after it comes out, and that's not enough time to listen to an album and actually let it sink in. I've seen reviews of this album on YouTube, just a few. I did a quick search. I didn't look into too many others. I'm sure there's a lot of maybe some other great fan reviews, but I just saw a few that were kind of a very clinical, honestly kind of shallow review of it, kind of treated it like, oh, it's typical Foo Fighters, better than some of their other albums, but predictable chord progressions, some of the songs are moody, like stupid. I want to take more time to actually talk about it and explain why this is not an album that you just listen to for the music, but you listen to this album with the context of the band and their history. I'll just kind of explain why it's cool that it even exists. So when Taylor passed away, you know, Dave Grohl is the Foo Fighters, but Taylor, I think, was kind of another key anchor in the Foo Fighters, just because if you watch their documentaries and how they interact on stage and concerts and stuff, they are always bantering back and forth. They're like best friends, basically brothers, and there's such a strong bond between them. When Taylor passed away, that could have been the end of Foo Fighters. That could have been, hey, we're done with this. I've had, you know, Dave has had this happen with Kurt Cobain and Nirvana, and he even says, you know, for like a year, he didn't want anything to do with music. Obviously, this is a much different time. It's a much different dynamic in the band and everything, but it still could have been similar to that, where, you know what, I'm kind of done with music for a while. I don't want to keep, you know, reliving this hurt or whatever. And so this whole album really sticks out to be an emotional album. If you understand their history, I didn't know this, but a few months after Taylor passed away, Dave's mom also passed away, which, again, he talks about his mom so much and how she supported him in his music career, and that's a really hard thing to deal with. And that's another kind of shocking thing where you feel so empathetic for what Dave and the band must be going through, mainly Dave, you know? And so it's really important to keep that in mind when listening to this album. There's a few songs like The Glass, where I listened to it the first few times, and the lyrics say, I have someone I love, and just like that, I was left to live without him. That lyric, once you hear it a few times and you know, like, it hits you pretty hard. At least it did to me. Like, it made me kind of tear up the first time I listened to that song, and even now. And so there's some really powerful just lyrics and messages in these songs. So The Glass, I'll start with that, starts out really soft, it's somber. It's not too depressing or anything, but it's just a somber track. And it makes you think a little more introspectively about life, and, you know, what if something you love that you have right now that you hold so dear, you just lost it like that? Like, how would you handle that? How would you react? I mean, how do you move on from that? And that's a song that I listen to and can honestly feel just reflective about things I hold dear in my life. I think The Glass is an awesome song. Talk about Rescued, the intro track. So something interesting about this track, Drumeo, if you don't know, is a big drum channel that does a lot of cover, like has professional drummers come in and do cool things, and they give drum lessons and everything. And they had a pro drummer, Eloy Casagrande. I forget what band he's in currently, but he's a phenomenal metal drummer. His YouTube channel is really cool, full of covers. But they had him listen to Rescued, just listening to it and learning it by ear, kind of in the moment. And it was cool. They do that a lot with other songs and other famous drummers, but this one was cool. And I'm glad they did it because it's kind of a cool homage to the Foo Fighters and everything. But I'll be honest, I wish they would have picked a different song for him to do. because if you're a drummer, like this song's cool drum wise, and like it is an interesting song to watch someone learn how to play it. But I think there's cooler drumming songs on this album that I'll get into later. You have to watch the entire video to know what I'm going to be talking about. Rescued, I think, is just a good opener. It's like a very anthemic song, great for a stadium. It reminds me a lot of In Your Honor. And that song, Dave says, In Your Honor is kind of for the fans. Like, I wanted to write a song for our fans. And it's very anthemic, and like it kind of pulls you in and makes you feel like you're a part of the band. I kind of feel like this song does the same thing. Very similar dynamics. It's kind of just one of those, hey, we're in this together kind of song. And, you know, regardless of specifically what the lyrics are saying, that's kind of the attitude I get from that song of like, we're in this together. Almost kind of like Best of You as well. So yeah, I think that's a great opening to the track. The next song, Under You, I think sounds very similar to Generator from their There's Nothing Left to Lose album. And I'm saying these songs sound like their past songs, not to be like, oh, they can't be creative and they're copying themselves, but it's like, I just think it's interesting. You hear these nuances in their song, you're like, hey, that sounds like their past, you know? And I think in a way, every song on this album almost sounds like a past version of themselves, to a certain degree. But Under You definitely feels a little bit like Generator with the opening guitar lick. It's kind of got that that vocal box effect kind of sounds, you know, where Peter Frampton puts the tube in his mouth and he plays guitar. It's not exactly that, but it kind of sounds similar to that. And so Under You, again, an emotional song. You're going to be hearing me say that a lot. Every song's emotional, because it is, but Under You is kind of, you know, somber lyrics and everything, but it's a little more lighthearted. It kind of feels like that There's Nothing Left to Lose album, where it's kind of serious lyrics, but the music itself is a little more lighthearted or a little more kind of alleviating, if that makes sense. Just the music itself is not serious, but the lyrics kind of are impactful. And so that's what I like about Under You. It's easy to listen to, and it is a catchy song, but it's just got some sentimental lyrics. The next song, The Teacher, is a really cool Foo Fighters song. It's 10 minutes, which is not a typical thing that the Foo Fighters do, is to film a 10-minute long song. And I think they do it really well. A lot of lengthy songs, especially nowadays, are kind of, you know, a lot of prog metal bands will do super lengthy songs where it's like a different time signature every 5 seconds, all these different key changes. But this song is kind of just, it's not lengthy for the sake of being technical. It's lengthy for the sake of really sending a message and letting it sink in, which I love. If you watch the music video, it's an interesting music video. So this song is about Dave's mom. I think it's pretty safe to say that, who passed away. And this music video, I think, is kind of the coolest thing to watch with the song, because they got some weird trippy effects and stuff that go in and out, but they have some real home footage from Dave's like childhood and even the band. That's kind of cool to see. It really makes the song feel very sentimental, very personal, and it's like Dave's letting you into a part of his life. And I love it when artists do that, where they're bringing you in. That's what music is bringing you into what I'm feeling right now. I want to share this with you, and I want to convey it in music and art. And you feel that with this song, The Teacher, especially at the end when it goes on that heavy guitar riff. And that guitar riff kind of takes a while before it repeats itself. It takes a few measures. And I've tried to count that guitar riff out, but I think it's mostly in 3/4, and then at the end, kind of the last little measure, there's like a weird maybe 5/4 or 4/4 measure where it kind of cuts a little short, then it repeats. When the drums come in, like they're definitely in 3/4. But again, like it feels like the end kind of cut short a little bit, which I think is cool. So a different kind of time signature going on there from the rest of the song. I'm pretty sure. I think the rest of the song's in 4/4, but that end outro is really cool because he goes from the beginning saying wake up, repeating that, to now in the outro he's screaming goodbye, goodbye, and then it fades in this super distorted fade out, like just a wall of distortion just hitting your cranium and your auditory senses, and it really feels like it's fading out into like the ether, kind of the other side of the veil, or it's a really cool effect. And it just again drives home just how hard it's got to feel to lose someone that close to you. Yeah, so The Teacher, definitely watch the music video to it if you haven't. The next few songs, I'm not going to talk super in depth because there's 2 songs that I want to talk more in depth about. One of them is the song that I thought Eloy should have done on Drumeo. So watch the end of the video. You have to watch the end. You just have to. Anyway, next song, Rest. Really cool song. Again, all these songs I'm going to say are cool. Even though they're not my favorite songs ever, again, in context, they make sense and they feel right. Rest. I remember when I first listened to the album, I had my headphones on. I was laying in bed. It was like midnight. I was like kind of falling asleep, and I was listening to Rest. I'm like, dude, this is a perfect song to just end the whole album, fall asleep to. I'm drifting away. I'm kind of like, it's a good, peaceful, rest in peace song. Guitar, vocals, very dry, just very unproduced. I'm like, dude, like, yes. And then, lo and behold, right when you're about to sleep, it's just, rest, rest. Now, like, it's like, dude, just a battering ram. Just, again, like, banging your brains out. So the first time I listened to it, I was like, man, really? Like, you just had to ruin the vibe. But again, once you listen to it a few times, like, it makes sense. It's a goodbye song. It's like, rest in peace. At least that's how I interpret it. And it's just to kind of ramp up that dynamic of that impactful, emotional storytelling of, I guess, loss and anger with that loss. Maybe not anger, but just kind of the resolve of it. So I don't know. It's really hard to explain how music conveys emotions, but Rest is a cool song. Maybe not one I listen to a lot, but when I do listen to it, I respect it. Oh, excuse me. But yeah. I also think it kind of sounds like the Beatles. The intro with the acoustic guitar reminds me of the Beatles a little bit. Beyond Me, again, maybe a little Beatles-esque, I'm not sure, but the chorus really reminds me of The River from their Sonic Highways album. And I remember in high school watching that Sonic Highways HBO series, and Sonic Highways is not my favorite album. And I think a lot of Foo Fighters fans might agree it's not the best. But I thought it was really cool how they released that whole HBO series. And it's cool to track the band and do something that I'd never done before with an album. And you kind of, every week, you got to sit down and like watch the Foos. I thought it was exciting. But the song Beyond Me reminds me of The River. And The River, I think, is a really good song on that album. But the chorus kind of feels like that. Again, a little bit anthemic, just kind of sing along, and kind of the guitars in the back are a little more floaty, and I don't know, but I think Beyond Me is kind of maybe a good song of like maybe not quite understanding what's going on in your life. Literally, like, it's beyond me what's going on, but I'm gonna figure it out. So again, even if the lyrics aren't specifically saying that, like, it's kind of how I interpret it. Nothing at All is a cool song. I watched the video of them coming back where they're introducing their new drummer, Josh Freese. And which I had never heard of Josh Freese before. I pay attention to all these different drummers, and I never heard of Josh Freese before because he's a studio drummer. He's on all these recordings, yet he's not technically part of these bands like Nine Inch Nails, and I don't know. He did a Michael Bublé song, I guess, but look him up and you'll see all the bands he's been on. I can't remember, but anyway, they introduced Josh Freese, who, from watching him, he's a phenomenal drummer. I saw them play at USANA like 2 or 3 weeks ago, and USANA's a theater in Utah, and Josh Freese is an incredible drummer. Double bass drums, which for Foo Fighters, you're like, what? You can't do that, but it's sick. He makes it look sick. This song, Nothing at All, when they do that introduction of Josh, that video, they play this song, and I thought it was really cool to see Josh and Dave talking. Josh is like, hey man, I tried to play this how you said you made this beat, which is just playing it with one hand. So apparently Dave was in his house just like, I don't know, in his pajamas or whatever, and just like, I'm just gonna play a one-handed beat. And that's how he made the beat for this song. And Josh was like, that's cool, I'm gonna try to do that. And so just a little nerd moment, like seeing them connect was kind of cool, just on a drumming level. And so Nothing at All, I think is a good song as well. You know, I don't have too much to say about it other than I do want to talk about like that. I mean, it just reminds me of the concert. They played it at the concert at USANA the other week, and you could just tell it's a different dynamic. Of course it's going to be a different dynamic without Taylor, but I've been to 2 Foo Fighters concerts. One about 4 years ago with the Concrete and Gold tour, and this most recent one. So in the Concrete and Gold tour, you got Dave and Taylor kind of bouncing back and forth, bantering. It was honestly like an hour and a half of a comedy show and an hour and a half of music. And it was awesome. It was so fun to watch a band just be so intimate with each other and bring an entire stadium into that intimate circle as well. Into that intimate... I'm a wapper. And it was nice. A lot of bands don't do that. A lot of bands kind of just play their songs, or they'll say, hey, what's that song like? And then that's it. Are you ready to rock? And that's it. So it's cool to see them really bring in that personal feel. This last show wasn't quite like that, nor was I expecting it to be. I don't think anyone was. It's just you could feel something was different. And I meant to say this with The Glass, but I just remembered. They played The Glass at that show, and Dave said, this is only the second time we played this live. And they played it, and he got emotional singing The Glass. You could tell he's getting a little choked up singing it and trying to hold back tears. And you felt it with him. You felt like, dang, dude, this is real. And so, yeah, anyway, it's just a different dynamic, which is fine. But it just makes you realize even more like, man, it's devastating that we no longer have the full band. We don't have Taylor. Things are just different. So yeah, Nothing at All. I also think it's a great song. Hearing Voices. This song, I want to talk about specifically the structure of the song and why I think it's interesting. Now, it's not the most complicated structure. It's not anything crazy. I just think it's worth talking about in the sense that it doesn't follow kind of the classic popular song structure where it's intro, verse, pre-chorus, chorus, verse, chorus, bridge, final chorus, outro, whatever. This song, first of all, the intro is kind of a guitar intro, and it reminds me of the song Satellite by Guster. And if you're a Guster fan and you know that song, you know the dinky little keyboard hook that goes that keyboard hook could go over the intro for Hearing Voices, I think, super well. This song, I mapped out the structure. Here's what I think the structure is. I mean, you could kind of call these sections whatever you want, but Starts out with the intro, then it goes to verse, then it goes to the vocal hook, and then it goes to the pre-chorus, chorus, chorus number dos, then it goes to like this cool post-chorus where it's the verse riff, but it's like Dave singing this kind of post-chorus vocal, I've been hearing voices, I think, yeah, just after the chorus, and it kind of fades into the verse. And so it's kind of like a post-chorus slash pre-verse kind of thing. And then it goes into the verse, no vocal hook on this one. And then it goes to the pre-chorus, goes into the chorus again, chorus number 2, and then it goes into the post-chorus again, but then it kind of just rides that on with that vocal hook, and it kind of rides that to the outro. There's no bridge in this song, which I think is the most interesting. So, like, pretty much every song has a bridge, and the bridge is typically the most interesting part of the song that's, like, changing the pace, and then it, you know, helps the mood pick up in the end or whatever. But this song doesn't have a bridge. Instead, it just rides that kind of last verse to the outro. And then what's really cool is it all fades out and it just goes to Dave and a guitar and a piano, and it's all dry, unproduced, and it's all like a very raw recording that it fades out on. I think that's cool because it just kind of makes the song feel a little bit more intimate. Like, these are the raw emotions that he's feeling. That's kind of what I take out of it. Naked and Famous, they have a song that kind of does that, where I'm forgetting the song, but it's the whole big song and then it fades out and it's just the vocals and like a kind of a background guitar, acoustic guitar, and it's cool because you just hear the vocals. But yeah, this song does that fade out, and I just think the structure is cool, and how the song is structured really makes it a little bit more impactful. It conveys the message of the lyrics a little bit better, and it just, to me, it's one of those songs where it's like, I don't know this, I just feel like they probably wrote it and just like, this just feels like how the structure should be. Probably didn't like map it out and everything. It's just like, this just feels how the song should naturally be. I'm guessing at that, but that's kind of what this all says to me, is just, it's a very natural sounding song of just kind of the emotions. So many emotions in this record, but yeah, dude, that's Hearing Voices. Now, my two favorite songs on the album I want to talk about, and next one is Show Me How, and these are the two songs that I think Eagle Casagrande should have played on drums for Drumeo, trying to learn how to play them, because these are songs I haven't seen them play live. The Foo Fighters, I haven't seen them play these songs live, and I would love to see these songs played on the drums because I think they're really interesting songs on the drums. Show You How is one of them, where at first I started listening to that song, and to me it sounded like, you know, just a standard drum beat, you know, fast hi-hat pattern, and I was like, okay, this is cool, you know, like, all right. And then in the chorus, or even the pre-chorus, he goes to playing on the ride. By the way, Dave Grohl is playing the drums on this whole album, which I think is why it just, again, it feels so special. There's something about when Dave plays, it's nothing crazy, it just feels solid and it just feels right. And Show You How, when he goes to the chorus, he starts playing that fast pattern on the ride. And in my head, it's like, wait a minute, he's playing that on the ride. That's not easy to do. I mean, if you have the right technique and everything, you know, it's not a big deal, but it's just, and it's just, that's a cool thing, because I've never heard Dave play a pattern like that on the ride cymbal, one-handed, or I'm assuming it has to be one-handed. And I've just never heard him play the kind of drums like that. And maybe he has, and I'm just not thinking of the right song, but it's not like Everlong where he's like on the hi-hat, and it's obviously two hands, but it just feels very smooth, feels very rhythmic. The dynamics on that hi-hat and on the ride are very clean, and it's a very trancing song to listen to. And apparently Dave Grohl's daughter sings on it. I don't know which one. He has 2 daughters, but apparently she sings on it, and I think her backing vocals really make that song special. In Everlong, you have a female backing vocalist who I forget her name, but she does the backing vocals through a telephone call, literally. And you don't notice it unless you really pay attention, but those female backing vocals make Everlong that much better and more full. I think it's the same with Show You How, where the female vocals are a lot more present, but it just makes it feel more rounded out, and they complement Dave's vocals super well. And I love that song because there's no lull. There's no like bridge where the drums cut out and then it's like 30 seconds of no drums and then it builds back up. I honestly really hate it when songs do that sometimes, when there's a cool drum beat and they just cut out. This song's nice because the drums are just consistent the whole way through. Nothing fancy, no bedazzles or anything. It's just consistently drumming that feels right, and it gets you in that trance, and it is one of my favorite songs on the album. I don't know if other people would agree necessarily, but I can listen to that song so many times and just hear every instrument, every like snare, whatever. I'm a drummer, so obviously I geek out about the drums, but every other instrument as well, it feels really crisp. So yeah, and I think it's got some catchy vocal hooks as well. I think it'd be really cool to see Dave or another professional drummer play that song, and well, Dave, let's be honest, or Josh Freese, I guess. But I wish they would have played that live at their last concert, and they didn't. They played No Son of Mine, which is honestly one of my least favorite Foo Fighters songs. It doesn't feel like a Foo Fighters song, but they play that song quite a bit. I don't know why. I don't really like it. I wish they would have played Show You How or this other song, but here we are. The name of the album. They didn't play that, and I wish they would have. It is my favorite song on the album, and it's one of my favorite Foo Fighters songs that they've released in the past decade. Seriously, it is such a good song. But Here We Are is a phenomenal rock song. And I know rock song sounds very generic and cheesy, but it's just a good, solid song. It's been a while since the Foo Fighters have it hasn't been a while. They just don't release very many songs that feel like gritty. You know, you got Run. Run's an awesome song. I love that. Skies and Neighborhood's fine, but it's not quite as gritty or rockin' necessarily. It's a little more poppy. Rope and Bridge Burning, awesome rock songs. Like, that's kind of what I'm talking about, where it's like, still catchy stuff, but it's definitely like kind of in your face, heavy. I mean, heavy. I'm not talking metal. I'm just talking, it's a little heavier on the guitars and dynamics and stuff. But Here We Are kind of feels like Bridge Burning, Rope, Pretender, whatever. And it is such a cool song. And again, I'm going to talk about the drums. Sorry. But the time, it's in 7/4. The majority of the song is in 7/4. The chorus is in 4/4. The Foo Fighters do not deal with odd time signatures hardly ever. In times like these, the main guitar hook, I think, is in 7/4. Like, that part's in 7/4. The rest of the song is in 4/4. And that's a cool hook. But Here We Are, the drums are awesome. I mean, it's just, they're very aggressive. They're in your face. It's just, the beginning of that song starts with some, like, I don't know, metal clicking or something, like metal scraping kind of thing to kind of introduce the time. I don't know why, but that intro reminds me of Cooking Mama Cook-Off, or if you played Breath of the Wild, Zelda, or Tears of the Kingdom, when you cook something, it's like bling bling bling. Like, it reminds me of cooking. I don't know why. But then the song actually gets into it, and it's just like, it's almost like Everlong, where it's a little bit somber, just kind of like a little bit angry, just kind of, maybe not quite Everlong, but just, it's a little bit angry, and like, you just feel the passion in Dave's voice. And the drums, I've I've kind of played them by ear, just listening to the track on the drums, and they're so fun to play. I love playing in 7/4. I think that is I think that's the most fun time signature to play. Not odd time signature, but time signature overall. And again, it's just so punchy. The chorus is awesome. It reminds me a lot of The Best of You, where he goes, oh, 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 and the whole stadium sings, oh. He literally like does that in the song, which is not bad, but like it works, and you feel like a whole stadium can be enthralled in the song, and like the verse is fast paced and everything, and then the chorus is like you wanna headbang to it, man. You really do. You wanna bob, and I so wish they would have played this live. And this is a song I'm gonna go back to Eloy. I wish Eloy Casagrande would have played this on Drumeo. I think it would have been so sick. He would have fit the song really well, I feel like. And it would have been challenging because of that odd time signature. Just, throws you off a little bit, but then I'm sure you would have figured it out. Then, again, the drums do not stop in the song. They're all the way through the song. There's no break. Doesn't cut out and then build up again. It's just consistent energy, which I love. Keeps you in it. And then, really cool part in the bridge where it's just drums are going crazy, and then you got the guitars not soloing, but just kind of doing some melodic stuff, keeping it going, keeping the pace. And then Dave does the classic like bottom triples, like and then like break, and then it's just his vocal scream, the dude. When I first heard that, I was blown to smithereens. I was just like, damn, like that was sick. That was sick. Like rewind, let's listen to that again. Dope. And then the outro keeps that energy up, keeps going, and then Dave again does the classic the triplet fill, that he's done in Queens of the Stone Age and Them Crooked Vultures. And I was just like, dude, the fanboy drummer inside of me was just like, dude, this was it, man. This was like the final, this was just the meal that I needed after a cold day outside to really just feel warm and like it hit the spot, man. So I think that song's awesome, and I don't feel like, I haven't heard many other people talk about that song. Quite honestly, I haven't done much research, but I feel like that's an underrated song. It is such a good Foo Fighters song, and like I love it, man. I really do. So I really wish they played that song more live, if they don't already. But overall, this album, I'm not gonna rate it or anything. Like, I'm not gonna rate it musically or how interesting it was or whatever. This is not an album I think you can listen to for the music alone, and which is weird to say about a music album. I think you have to understand the context of the Foo Fighters. You have to understand where they're coming from. You have to understand why this album exists. And if you do, then every song makes sense, and every song you're pulled into, and you're feeling what the band is feeling, and you almost feel like a part of their family, like you're grieving with them. That's really what this whole album feels like. It's like, we're all in this together, we're grieving together, let's express it, and let's move forward with these experiences and, see what the future holds. And it is so cool because it shows that the Foo Fighters are not slowing down. They're just taking this as another way to kind of expand they're I don't know the word for it. They're just expanding their stuff, their lifestyle. I don't know, man. It's just their path. So it's just, I'm really excited to see what else Foo Fighters do, man. And I'm glad this album came out. Is it the greatest album of all time? No, I wouldn't say that or anything. It's very special, and it was very needed at the right time. I do believe that. So thanks for listening. Check it out if you haven't checked it out already. Dave he'd be happy. I'll see you dweebs later, and Peace be the journey.